Alright, hey, I just wanted to check in because I read a collection of short stories by Stephen King, If It Bleeds. This is going to be kind of more of an improv review session for me. I didn't take any notes or anything on this one. Normally I take notes after the fact and go through my notes and make sure I get everything, but I figured I was just going to try to wing it for this one, so we'll see how this goes. But If It Bleeds, I think it came out in about 2020. It has 4 short stories in it, including one called If It Bleeds. The other 3 are Mr. Harrigan's Phone, The Life of Chuck, and Rat. And it starts with Mr. Harrigan's Phone, which is about a young boy who ends up befriending an old man, and he works for him. And the old man gives him lottery tickets for, like, special holidays and birthday and stuff. And one of the lottery tickets ends up getting him, like, $3,000. And this was in 2007-ish, so he buys an iPhone with it, and he also buys Mr. Harrigan, the old man, an iPhone as well. Mr. Harrigan ends up dying, and at the funeral, the boy uses his phone, puts like a little note in his phone, and slips it into Mr. Harrigan's breast pocket, because it was a open casket or whatever, and he's buried with that phone. Well, every time he calls the phone, it goes to his voicemail, even though the phone should be dead at a certain point. And there's a couple times where he gets texts that are like C, C, A, just like random letters. Some mysterious things kind of start happening around what he is leaving voicemails of to Mr. Harrigan's phone whenever he makes these calls. It's a really interesting concept. I liked it a lot, actually. It might be my favorite story of the 4. I don't know. It's pretty close. It's definitely one of my favorite stories of the 4 in here. We then go into The Life of Chuck, which is probably my least favorite of the 4. It is about, well, it starts off with just kind of like a standalone story of a guy going through this world that is slowly shutting down. Like, internet's gone, power's starting to go out. Everywhere there's these signs, like on billboards and things, that say, "Thanks, Chuck, 39 great years." Nobody really knows who this Chuck guy is. It's kind of a mysterious, ominous thing, and it starts with Act 3, and then goes to Act 2, then Act 1 in this book, and you're going backwards in time. I can't say too much about the story without giving away kind of what's going on, but just know they may be living inside of Chuck's mind, and Chuck may be dying. It's an interesting concept. I like the idea of it. I just wasn't a huge fan of the story. It was a classic moment of, there was an interesting story to be told, but I feel like there were too many tangents that went on, and too many kind of side stories that took away from the overall story trying to be told, in my opinion. But the next story in this collection was If It Bleeds, and this is a Holly Gibney story, and I really liked this story. If it weren't for Mr. Harrigan's Phone, probably would be my favorite. It might actually be my favorite or tied with, I don't know. I really liked If It Bleeds. So for those of you that don't know, Holly Gibney is part of, where is it? Bill Hodges' story here is where she's first introduced, and then The Outsider, she's kind of more on her own. She has a partner in that case. And in this one, she is completely on her own, really, throughout most of it. She is part of the Finders Keepers company. She's really mostly the owner of it, honestly, now, ever since Bill Hodges passed, which is like a detective agency that solves generally smaller crimes, but they wind up solving some big cases. So in this one, there is a bomb that goes off in a school and kills a bunch of kids, and there's a reporter that's there super early. He's kind of suspicious to Holly because there is like a little leftover bit of like a fake mustache or something on his face in one of the shots, and then suddenly it's gone next time he's on camera. And just something's not really sitting right with her. She does a bunch of investigative work in this book trying to find out more about this reporter. And I honestly can't say much about this without spoiling it, and I don't want to. So I think I'm just going to kind of shut up there, but just know it's a really good story. It's a cool case. Some paranormal stuff is happening, and I really like Holly. Holly Gibney's awesome, and Jerome's cool. He plays a smaller part in this book, but I like Holly a lot. The final story is Rat, And Rat is about a English teacher that he constantly is trying to write something, essentially. Like, he wants to write a novel, but like one time he had a mental breakdown and burned the fucking pages he was working on and almost burned down the house. His wife doesn't really fully support him, honestly, but she also kind of does, but she's not super into what he's trying to do because she knows that it affects his mental so much. So he goes out to this cabin that's like his dad's old cabin, and decides to write a story that came into his mind of this like Western story, and he wants to write it out there, or at least get a start on it for the first like 2 or 3 weeks. He ends up getting sick, and there's also a big storm that comes through, and when the storm comes through, it knocks over trees, and he finds this rat that is outside suffering, and he decides to bring it in from the cold and at least essentially let it die in comfort inside is kind of his thinking. He was going to put it out of its misery and then decided not to because he's already kind of been through enough. He already got crushed possibly by a tree or something, and he just decides to bring it inside and let it die in there, and he goes off to bed. Well, in the middle of the night, he starts hearing this rat talk to him, but he doesn't see the rat moving his mouth or anything, but he hears the rat's voice, and he kind of assumes maybe this is like a fever-induced hallucination. And the rat says, if you want to finish your book, I can essentially grant you this wish, but a loved one or somebody you care about is going to have to die. And I'm not going to say much more about it, but it is a very interesting concept. I really like this story as well. It's probably my third favorite story of the 4. And honestly, it's mostly because of just the character development. I really like the characters in Rat, and so I enjoyed the story because of that. But I'm not going to say much more about any of these stories because it's kind of hard talking about short stories without spoiling them because they're short, and so a lot of the meat happens pretty early on. So it's a little hard for me to kind of talk about what is going on in these short stories, but it's classic Stephen King stories with weird paranormal elements that are in play. And in If It Bleeds, there's kind of the concept of Ka in the background working its magic, which is, if you know, mostly from the Dark Tower series, but does play a role in a lot of his books. It's not mentioned by name, but you can tell Ka is playing a part in If It Bleeds for sure. But yeah, so sorry if this one is a little rambly. Like I said, I didn't have notes to go by or anything. I was just kind of talking about them from memory, and yeah, I really enjoyed them. I thought all of them were worth reading, and I'm excited to add this to my little Stephen King shelf. So anyways, I appreciate y'all for sticking around this long, and thanks.